27. I don't know what that means, but you look great for 27.
Well, I found a great dealer of white beard dye.
Oh, good for you. Good for you.
Been looking for it for a long time.
I figured that was just shoe polish, but what do I know? Well, it's good to have you, Ken Weaver, in the newsroom, gathering headlines and making sure that we're on top of the breaking news. And man, oh man, does it not feel like, I mean, this has been like drinking out of a fire hose the last week, hasn't it?
It is, Brother Murphy. Just like, Thune getting elected after the first secret ballot. I didn't know the vote would go that fast. I mean, did they take a vote? Okay, well, Scott's out. Let's do another one.
I think that's exactly. Were you there? I think that's exactly what they did. All right, tally them up, boys, girls. What do we got? We got Thune 20-something. We got Cornyn 15. Scott 13. Let's run them again. Let's go.
Yeah.
Last man out.
It was like boom,
boom, and we're done. We're going to break it down today. We're going to break it down with you. We'll get your thoughts on all of this. I don't want to make the small things more important than they are. I don't want to make them less important than they are. I am in the business of telling you the news. I'm in the business of offering you my opinion, and here's the deal. I do not believe that this will be important until it is. And I know that that's no solace for those of you who wanted to see Rick Scott, because he seemed to be the guy best able to advance the Trump agenda in the United States Senate. John Thune claims he's that guy. We'll find out. We'll find out if John Thune's a liar or not. I mean, John Thune says he's seen the lie. John Thune went down and kissed the ring in Mar-a-Lago. He took his wife down there. John Thune did what was necessary to, quote-unquote, get back in the good graces of the man, Donald J. Trump. So if you ask me who my last choice would have been, it would have been John Cornyn. My second choice would have obviously been John Thune. First choice, Rick Scott. I think most of you probably are there. So in that analysis, could have been worse, I suppose. Could have been worse, could have been better as well. However, how many of these senators have truly seen the light with regard to what is expected of them in the United States Senate and who the real enemies are? There are enemies in Washington, D.C., and it's not the Republican Party, at least as much as the Trump agenda is concerned. It most certainly is the Democrats, and we're going to talk about that and break that down today as well. So Ken Weaver's back in the newsroom. He's ready for headlines and ready to jump in at any moment that he likes. Bell K is behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as possible. Bell participates in a lot of ways. He runs the show. He screens your telephone calls. He runs Supertalk TV. He refuses to appear on Supertalk TV because, the warrants. But he does entitle the episodes. So today is episode 693, and on Supertalk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Bell, what do we got?
Supertalk 99.7 presents your brand new Secretary of Agriculture, Matt Murphy.
Thank you, everybody. Listen, I wasn't going to talk about this toward the end of the show, but I might be making limited appearances because I don't know if you guys know this, but in a different life, I do a little weed farming on the side, and because of the success of my pot farms, I've been asked to be Secretary of Agriculture. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
I feel good about it.
And in the words of Donald Trump, couldn't find anybody better.
I've got a little.
That was you read the press release. Very good.
I got a little patch of grass out behind my home you can use if you want.
Last time I was offered a patch of grass,
I'll tell Fritz to use another one.
I got in a lot of trouble. I think we're talking about a different kind of grass. Man, oh man. Fritz needs to get together with Mrs. Beasley, and they need to tackle this groundhog I've got in my backyard.
Oh, got a groundhog problem.
I did. Well, no, I wouldn't even say it's a problem. I mean, I looked it up, and groundhogs are all good as long as, as long as you don't have anything for them to eat.
Yeah.
They don't cause a ruckus. Not like the dadgum moles.
Moles. Oh, yeah, moles. I'm thinking of moles.
Oh, those moles.
Make you turn your ankle if you're out there playing football.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Step in their holes.
Oh, try to cut the grass after the moles have been out and about in the backyard. Can't do it. It bogs it down.
Yeah.
Oh, awful.
You've had those groundhogs since you moved in, though.
I don't know. We call him Gary.
Wasn't there multiples at one point?
We assumed that maybe Gary had a girlfriend, but we've not seen any little groundhogs running around, so I don't think that's the case.
Well, maybe they're waiting until they get married.
Well, they're faithful groundhogs, and they believe in doing it the right way. And Gary went over to meet Mr. and Mrs. Groundhog, his soon-to-be wife's parents, and asked for her hand in marriage.
Sir, I'd like to court your daughter. Get out of my hole.
What are you doing on my hay? Get out of here. We've been feeding them sweet potatoes, by the way.
Ooh, nice.
Trust me, if you've got a groundhog in the backyard, they love sweet potatoes.
Yeah, Erica told me that when we were at Tin Roof, she said that she puts the sweet potato out there. It sits for about 24 hours, and then it vanishes.
Tell you, it's bad news in the backyard of the Murphy compound, I'll tell you that. All right, so let me make you feel better as we get things lumbering under our own weight. Let me make you feel a little bit better about what's going on.
All right.
So thus far, we have these selections. These are according to Donald Trump, and there may be more. I might have missed something today, but I think Donald Trump's been busy meeting with the outgoing president of the United States, Jill Biden. I'm sorry, Joe Biden. Did I say Jill? My apologies.
You forgot to put doctor.
Yes, I did. Dr. Jill. You know what I would have liked to have seen? More, I loved Melania's response to being invited. Like, I mean, I love it because that's a human being. We're not playing nicey nice. You invite me for tea? You people raided my house.
Yeah.
You went through my panty drawer, and you want me to play nice with you? I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
You call my husband Hitler.
Right. He almost had his brains blown out, and now you want me to come have tea with you?
Yeah.
And you're
But
well, that's true.
that's all you need to hear right there. Successful
exactly
presidency.
Right. Boy, oh boy. If only he was that cogent earlier today. I mean, he didn't seem. He shook his hand and, we're going to have the peaceful, orderly power transfers. You know what I mean? It's as easy as possible. It's just. What's your name again? What?
What are you doing in my chair?
What are you doing? What? This is. Hey, Donald. Why didn't you invite me 4 years ago? You're all grumpy. Yeah, maybe he didn't invite you 4 years ago because there was a magical $10 million vote count.
That's what everybody's focusing on in the mainstream too, is about how different it was.
Oh, how gracious!
Yeah.
Oh, how gracious Joe Biden has been. Yeah. Maybe do a news story on where before all of you get fired over at CNN and MSNBC. Could you do just one story on what happened to the missing 10 million votes that the Democrats didn't get this time around? Because I'm just as curious as can be where those votes went.
Yeah.
Now, I'm more curious where they came from because the numbers this time around are part of the historical average. Last time was an aberration.
Let me tell you something. Last time around, send them some mail-in ballots. We'll collect them later. Hey, did we send mail-in ballots over there? I don't know. Send them again. Hey, have we already sent mail-in ballots to Philadelphia? Just send them again. If they get multiples, they're not going to fill them all out.
Just make copies just to be safe.
Yeah, make copies and send them again.
Come on, boys. You know that 11 million people just decided not to vote this round.
That's right. Weaver's like, calm down on that kind of talk.
11 million
right.
people decided they were not going to vote this time around.
Yeah, not that important. Not that much different. Not that much different. Kamala the Savior, the Messiah of the Democrat Party, and Hitler. Not much different. So I'm just going to sit at home, let them figure it out. Oh, boy.
Oh, my God.
Isn't it great that we don't have to hear that voice for 4 years running?
No, I just want to keep that drop, though. That's going to be good. That's going to be good. Almost as good as, well, Dan. You missed that this morning. That's so good.
Who said that to him?
Oh, I meant to tell you to pull this. You can find it on, it's about 8:08 in the morning on Nashville's Morning News when Marsha Blackburn made a very abbreviated appearance on Dan Mandis' show. And good for Dan getting her on. So we're going to break all of this down for you throughout the course of the day. So if you've missed any of this, there's a big debate going on about who will be the Senate Majority Leader. The Senate Majority Leader sets the schedule. The Senate Majority Leader is in control of committee assignments. The Senate Majority Leader has a lot of power over the structure of the rules of the Senate. Okay? So there are a lot of things that perhaps can be accomplished with a more aggressive approach, one that we have not seen in Mitch McConnell lo these many years. So there was a lot of a hope and a hype that Donald Trump would get a guy in there that could advance his agenda. Donald Trump is a part of the executive branch and has nothing to say about this. Nothing official to say about this. I think Donald Trump has a lot to say about it in terms of his power in Washington, D.C. right now, because Donald Trump is the mandate. Once again, I repeat this, and I'm going to say it till the cows in the back can get it, grazing in the fields. Donald Trump is the mandate. If there's a mandate that was sent to D.C., it's in the form of Donald J., right? So, with all of that said, the powers that be coalesced after Mitch McConnell announced that he would no longer be in the Senate Majority Leader role. And John Cornyn, who's always been buddy-buddy with McConnell, and John Thune, who's way too much buddy-buddy with Mitch McConnell, came together and decided that they were going to throw their hat in the ring. And they announced this months ago when Mitch McConnell made the announcement, long before it was believed that Donald Trump would actually secure the victory that John Thune and John Cornyn predicted that he would never have. That both of them predicted that he would never be president of the United States again. That said, Rick Scott, a little late into the game, threw his hat in the ring and said, listen, I'm going to be the Trump guy. I'm going to be your Trump man in the Senate, and I will do everything in my power to advance this agenda. This does not mean, and I just want to give you a little hope here, this does not mean that we are stymied in any way, other than in the case of filibuster and certain structural issues that may come up in the United States Senate. And I'm going to talk about those in just a moment. At 21 after the hour on Supertalk 99.7 WTN, it's the Matt Murphy Show. Thank you for being here. Back after this. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy, and all month long, our friends at Craft Body Scan, they're offering their couples heart and lung scan for only $149. I love that they've extended this opportunity for you. They've done it from time to time over the course of the last year, and now as we lead into the holidays, they want to make sure that you are safe, you are sound, and you are A-OK inside of your body. The couple's heart and lung scans are valued at over $2,500. It's a huge savings for anyone looking for a non-invasive way to check out their heart, check out their lungs, and make sure that everything is A-OK. And these scans can be a game changer because you could have something happening early inside of your body that you don't experience symptoms. You don't know that it's happening, but it is happening. Take a proactive step toward better health through early detection. Book your couple's heart and lung scan today at togetherwescan.com. That's togetherwescan.com, or call 615-436-1000.
House Senate Republicans have made Senator John Thune of South Dakota the next majority leader, and a CIA official with top security clearance has been arrested and charged for leaking classified material. We'll tell you about it at 12:30 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN.
There's Ken Weaver. He'll be along in just a couple of minutes. My name is Matt Murphy. We're here till 3 o'clock. We hand off to the drive at that time on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Always looking forward to a conversation with you. Libertarian Lunch in Progress, 615-737-9986. Find us on the FM radio dial, 99.7 FM. You can also find us anywhere you stream news or music or podcast or information, wherever you stream. You type in Supertalk 99.7 WTN, and there we are. And if we're not there, let us know, and we'll get there. Plus, we have our own app. You can download that and take us wherever you want to go. And then, of course, Supertalk TV for you masochists in the listening audience that want to see how I look. I don't know why, but here I am, Supertalk TV up and running. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. So, Trump administration selections thus far. This is what I've got. And I don't see a miss so far. Of those that Donald Trump has confirmed for himself, coming from a statement that he's been putting out all of these statements on his Truth Social platform, and it filters over to X and the other platforms as well. So we have John Ratcliffe selected by Donald Trump as the head of the CIA. That's great news. It's great news. John Ratcliffe is the former National Security Intelligence Officer. John Ratcliffe will do a fine job as director of the CIA, an organization that needs a revamp from the top up or bottom down or whatever. I'll hold Pete for a moment. Kristi Noem, we are told, will be the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, should she be confirmed by the United States Senate. No reason to believe that she would not be. I have no reason to believe that Kristi Noem will not do a fine job in that capacity. I don't know how you could do a worse job than Alejandro Mayorkas, who ought to be prosecuted for a dereliction of duty.
Are these appointments, do they require a 60-vote threshold, or is this?
No.
So this is just simple majority?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think they could, I think what the Democrats could try to do, and this goes back to the speaker race, what the Democrats could try to do is filibuster these selections. And if they try to filibuster these selections, that does require supermajority in order to break the filibuster. But what the majority leader needs to do is make them filibuster, which is what I described yesterday. So the way it works in D.C., because they're lazy, right, is the majority party, in this case, let's say the Republicans, they say, hey, we want, this is a great way to illustrate the point. We want Kristi Noem to be the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. And we're going to take a vote. And the Democrats say, no, we're going to filibuster that. We don't want that. We're going to filibuster. And it takes a supermajority to break a filibuster. And in that case, a lot of times, especially when it comes to legislation and not selections like this, presidential selections like this, but when it comes to legislation, the Republicans say, well, okay, they're going to filibuster, so let's not bring it to the floor right now. Let's try to figure something out. Let's try to go into conference and have a compromise. Compromise? Instead, what ought to happen is you make them filibuster on the floor. You know, like Mr. Smith goes to Washington, you think I'm licked, I'm not licked. That guy, that's a filibuster. What they do is not a filibuster. I think Rand Paul is the last guy to filibuster, actually filibuster. Ted Cruz did a little of this, too, some years ago. I think Rand had talked for like 12 hours at one point. When you filibuster in the United States Senate, you have to hold the floor of the United States Senate and not release it to the majority party. And in doing so, you have to be there, present. And instead of doing it this way, sadly, the United States Senate accounts for voting members and not voting members present. In other words, when they take their count, you don't have to be in the United States Senate to count against or for moving on from the filibuster. If you make them sit in the room, you're going to see a lot less of this filibuster crap. Well, our new Senate Majority Leader needs to make them sit in the room. And there's an expectation that he will. I don't know if that's the case or not. So Kristi Noem, Department of Homeland Security, and under Kristi Noem, Tom Homan has been selected as the, quote, border czar. UN Ambassador Elise Stefanik, she doesn't like the UN very much, and I like that. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee. Mike Waltz, who I don't know very well, but he's a former Green Beret, and now a representative from Florida, will be the National Security Advisor. Lee Zeldin will head up EPA. Obviously, Susie Wiles will be the Chief of Staff. Stephen Miller will be a Deputy Chief of Staff. That is not a cabinet-level position. That is just an executive branch position. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are going to head up what is called the Department of Government Efficiency. And Democrats last night were hilarious on this point. I'm going to get to this in a moment. That's not a real agency. What are you doing? That doesn't really exist. Oh, my gosh. Let me tell you, the last week of my life has been awesome watching these people just lose their ever-loving mind. Because you know what? It's just, it's a little bit of mind over matter. I don't mind because you don't matter. If you're on MSNBC, you don't matter. And you did that. I didn't do that. You did that. More on that in a moment. Right now, it's time for Ken Weaver in the Newsroom on Supertalk 99.7 WTN.
$12:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 5 minutes. Senate Republicans voting to make Senator John Thune of South Dakota the next majority leader. Thune, the current number 2 Republican in the Senate. He beat Senators John Cornyn and Rick Scott in the vote. Jay O'Brien has more from Capitol Hill.
It's a reminder of the fact that Republicans in the Senate are still their own body. This is not a rejection necessarily of Donald Trump, who did not put his thumb on the scale for any one of these candidates. He did not come out of his way to endorse Rick Scott or Thune or Cornyn or really anyone in this race.
President-elect Trump in D.C. today, part of the transition process, meeting with GOP House members, then headed to the White House where he met with President Biden. John Santucci says both Biden and Trump were cordial to one another.
There's got to be this little human moment of, I'm back, right? I mean, and listen, Joe Biden said it too. Welcome back. It was his office 4 years ago, and it will be his office until January 2029.
A CIA official with top security clearance has been arrested and charged for allegedly leaking classified material about Israel's attack plans on Iran last month. He is identified as Asif W. Rahman. He works overseas for the CIA, indicted last week on federal charges, then arrested yesterday in Cambodia and taken to a federal courthouse in Guam, where he was arraigned on 2 counts of willful retention and transmission of national defense information. Inflation slightly edging up last month, according to the Consumer Price Index. Inflation rate 2.6% in October. That's in line with expectations. Elizabeth Schulze says some prices are coming down, but housing and child care still high.
Rent prices are up nearly 5% in the past year still. Daycare and preschool costs up 6%, and car insurance is up 14%. In welcome news for those day-to-day expenses, gas prices are down about 30 cents in the last year. The national average could possibly dip below $3 a gallon in the next couple of months.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hello, friends. Matt Murphy here for Savory Spice. 2 locations, and Holly and David can be found at either of those locations at any given day, at any given time. And I love talking with Holly and David and their hand-selected team at Savory Spice because they understand spices. It's what they do. whether it's at the location in Nashville, L&L Market, right off Charlotte Pike, or in Franklin, just off the square next to Gray's Pharmacy. Savory Spice has what you're looking for. Maybe you're thinking about a grilling tip for the weekend. Perhaps you're watching a little football. Perhaps you're getting ready for the Thanksgiving holiday, which is right around the corner. Get all of your spice needs from Savory Spice. And yes, of course, they have pumpkin pie spice in abundance at Savory Spice. So stop by and say hello and see the Savory Spice difference. If you don't know your way around the kitchen, don't worry. They've got the Spice and Easy line that can help you out. Everything for the cook in your family. Get in front of the holidays as well with some great gift-giving ideas from Savory Spice. Tell them I sent you to the one and only Savory Spice. Supertalk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and you. Now, on the Murphy Show hotline is Representative Scott DesJarlais. He calls us from Washington, D.C., in the midst of voting up there, and I understand that it's a very fluid situation with you, Scott. You might have to step away for a vote or whatnot, but I appreciate you being on the Murphy Show on Supertalk with us. How are you, my friend?
Doing great. Glad to be with you. We already cast our first vote, so I'm just waiting for the second one.
All right.
We'll see. Maybe we'll get this in if they keep the vote open long enough.
Well, Scott was agreeable to come on with us even during the vote, and I said, look, if you're willing, I'm willing. If you have to step away, just say, Murph, I got to go, got to vote, and then we'll get you back in a second, and I'll fill, okay? I love the idea. So, Scott, a lot of people want me to ask you this question first and foremost, and I don't want any pussyfooting around on this one, Scott. I want a yes or no, and nobody cares if you're in the House of Representatives. Did you vote for Rick Scott or not? Nobody cares that you're not in the Senate.
I supported Rick Scott, but I didn't have a vote, unfortunately.
No excuses.
No excuses, DesJarlais. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, there's a lot of attention being focused on that, but not a lot in the House. I mean, it seems to be less, from a top end at least, less conversation about changing the Speaker of the House. I think Mike Johnson is solidly supported by most of the Republicans. Is that not the case?
It is. I mean, there may be a few people. There's nobody running against him today. We have those elections here right after we finish this vote series, and to my knowledge, he's running unopposed. But of course, the big test is on January 3rd when everybody sings out who they're for. And if we're going to have as I was quoted in NBC, a blank show. I know you have a family radio show, but that didn't stop them from printing it in NBC. But, I would like to think that on January 3rd, we stay united and we don't put on a spectacle like we did last time with Kevin McCarthy. But, Trump was in the conference this morning. Elon Musk was in there, and, spirits were high. Trump said, he was very supportive. I don't know that he actually endorsed Mike Johnson. But, we're going to have a slim majority again. We've got the Senate now. We have no option but to govern, and no excuses, as you said at the top of the hour on the other question. We've got to get things done, and we've got to unite as a conference, and you don't often get this opportunity, so we got to deliver.
I mean, beyond that, just speak a little further about what you think the message was last Tuesday. I just felt so good about the American people seeing through the nasty, angry, vitriolic narrative that the media had presented, the caricature that they had presented of Donald Trump as this evil authoritarian. Americans are just smarter than that, and I feel like these are wallet issues. These are pocketbook issues. They just want to see America succeed in the things that we're trying to accomplish and benefit their own communities. What's your takeaway, Scott?
It's hard to say it much better than you did. I talked to my chief that morning. I said, my heart tells me we're going to win 312 to 226. Honest truth. And I said, my head tells me be afraid because of what happened in 2020. And I'm like you. It's like we have a fraud for a candidate. They're running on a message of fear mongering, calling us Hitler and every name that they could think of, and talk about anything but the issues that were the economy and the border and the things that mattered to people. And I like to believe that the American people were smarter than that, and they proved you right and me right, and thank God, it gives me hope that the American dream is alive and well, and that we have a chance to right this ship.
I mean, and I understand that you don't want to get into the other body's business. When we talk about the Congress of the United States, you want to stay in your lane in the House. But I'm curious your takeaway from the Senate vote today. Are we as Tennesseans, are we as Americans making a little more of this than we should in terms of Rick Scott going down in defeat? Scott had presented himself as kind of the Trump guy. Thune and Cornyn. Yeah. They had been, a little. We've seen the quotes, we've played the comments. They said a few nasty things back in the day about Donald Trump. Are we making more of this than we should? And do you think that this will stymie any push for the Trump agenda?
Well, I think Tennessee spoke loud and clear. If you'd had my cell phone for the last 2 to 3 days, the number of calls I got from not just people you'd consider far-right conservatives, but my dentist, pharmacist, everyone was calling, wanting to make sure that both our senators voted for Rick Scott. I can't even count the number of texts and phone calls and messages I had on people having that be their preference. So clearly the red states think that Rick Scott would have been more Trump-friendly. Being a former South Dakotan, I moved to Tennessee in 93 from South Dakota. It's interesting that, we had Tom Daschle as a majority leader, and then John Thune beats him in 12, and now we got John Thune as a majority leader. But I hope that he's Trump friendly. I don't know that there's concerns about that, but let's see. McConnell, he's getting towards the end of his career, and I don't think he cared much what other people thought. He seemed like a wise old owl at times, and then other times he seemed like an obstructionist. So I hope John Thune will have a clear mind, listen to the mandate that was pretty resounding across America on November 5th, and they want to see the America First MAGA agenda, if you want to call it that, put in place, and I hope that he helps facilitate that.
As you watch some of the selections that Donald Trump has announced over the last several days, there are a number coming from the House of Representatives. I'm certain that you've spoken to a number of members about this, or I imagine it's a topic of conversation. It's a razor-thin majority that will be in the House of Representatives, right? So there's no real fear that some of these selections, picking off House members, will impact the numbers in the House of Representatives, is there?
Well, we have concerns in terms of timing. Elise Stefanik is probably going to be confirmed for UN Secretary. I think she'll do a great job. Sit next to her on armed services. I'll miss having her next to me, but New York is Governor Hochul will drag it out as long as possible on the special election. I think she got 7 to 10 days once Elise officially resigns to name the date, and then up 60 to 90 days to have the election. So I guarantee it'll be about 100 days to get her safe Republican seat replaced. DeSantis in Florida with Waltz, will have a lot more discretion to speed that one up. So, they can pick off a couple. Let's assume we end up with 222, which is probably fair, 221, 222. So we're already down 2, but that takes a little bit of time for that process to take place. I don't think Trump's going to try to take anybody else immediately because those numbers are so close. But once we refill those other 2 seats, I think it's possible that there could be a couple more. We have, a lot of talent in the House that, can go different places. The pace that he's been picking these people has been dizzying. His first term, it was like, 2-3 months in, and he'd only filled about a quarter of the position. So I guess he's taken a different approach this time. And there's, the Secretary of Defense, I don't even really know much about the guy. Kristi Noem, Department of Homeland Security, I don't know. She's in South Dakota. She talks stuff on it. So, I don't know. These picks are coming quick. I think some of them are great. Some of them I think maybe he could take a little more time. But back to your original question, the numbers in the House are concerning in the sense that if somebody's sick, if somebody's plane gets delayed, I guess if it's a big vote, we can always move the vote to the following week. But it's a slim majority. And as you saw last Congress, or I guess we're still in the 118th Congress, it's like herding cats, and we really need to unite and speak freely with the Senate and the White House to make sure that we get our big-ticket items through, and we get some people that just can't get the yes to get the yes and accept a little bit of compromise on some of the more important issues.
Talking with Representative Scott DesJarlais about the 118th Congress that is in session right now and the incoming 119th Congress. So do you expect, or have there been any conversations thus far, maybe it's too early, do you expect the rules to be the same? I understand that the razor-thin majority necessitated acquiescing to certain members of the Freedom Caucus and other groups that demanded that they have an ability to call the speaker to the carpet on the floor, for lack of a better way of putting it. Do you expect that those rules will move forward into the 119th, or does everything kind of reset in January?
We have rules conference tomorrow, and we have amendments, and we'll see what happens. And I'd like to see him get rid of the single-person motion to vacate the chair. I don't like that rule that any one person can do it, because in a slim majority, every Democrat's going to vote against your speaker. So literally 3 or 4 people can oust a speaker. Last time it took 8 Republicans and all the Democrats to oust a speaker. I think, a lot of times the conservative base doesn't want to bring a bill to the floor where you don't have the majority of the majority, and I think that's fair. But I also think that it should take a larger number to oust a speaker. Somebody may be upset because their bill didn't get brought to the floor. So we're going to get rid of the speaker. And that just creates dysfunction. And we witnessed that during this Congress. And I think it was a bad look for us. And we have a real opportunity to get things done. And we don't need, as I told the NBC reporter, we don't need
and by the way, you've just demonstrated, Scott, that you're busy in D.C. doing your thing because you don't listen to our show very much, because we're most definitely not a family show. That's a joke. I'm just kidding. Listen, so what people want to know what priorities are. People want to know. I understand that these. The big ship takes time to turn around, but we're $35 trillion in debt. We're excited about some of these announcements. Maybe we should be, maybe we shouldn't be, but. The Department of Government Efficiency, I dig it. I think it's time that we, how when you get too much undergrowth in a forest, sometimes you kind of have to burn that undergrowth off to make the forest thrive. I think it's high time we did that in government bureaucracy. Do you agree?
People are going to have to buckle up, because if we're going to do what Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are wanting to do, cut $2 trillion. Everyone thinks that sounds great until they cut their spending, and then you're going to have to say, well, suck it up, Buttercup, because this is going to go across government. If we're going to get rid of government waste, like they're talking about eliminate the Department of Education, amen, let's do it. And let's cut government jobs and clean out this dead wood and the undergrowth in the forest. But along the way, it's going to hit home to some people, and people are going to have to say, be careful what you ask for. But if we're going to deal with Social Security and Medicare insolvency, that's going to take some tough votes and a lot of courage. But if we want those programs to be around, we're going to have some tough conversations. And no politician wants to talk about that because they scare the hell out of the seniors and saying, oh, you're going to lose this and you're going to lose that. Well, all this is going to be phased in and phased out. And, they talk about, well, if we're going to change Social Security, if you're 55 and older, it won't affect you. Or, there's always guardrails in there to protect people and give you time to plan and adjust. But bottom line is, if we don't change things on the trajectory, we're going to be broke in, a decade. And so if we're really going to solve the problems that are facing America and the debt, we as conservatives are going to have to be willing to suck it up and realize that, some of it's going to touch us too. And there's a lot of fluff out there, but it's going to be a tough haul, and I hope we do it. I don't think we have a choice.
How, as you walk the halls of the House of Representatives in the aftermath of the election last week, how tough is it to find a never-Trumper right now, Scott?
I haven't seen one yet. He's a different Trump than he was 8 years ago.
No, he's changed. He's changed.
I mean, even Trump said this morning, even the New York Times is like a different paper. They're giving credit where it's due. I've seen Jake Tapper and Dana Bash and Van Jones and, giving Trump credit for his win. John Stewart, you maybe saw his comment. He said, I don't think we have lawyers for this. He actually won the election the way it's supposed to be done. And, he had a few expletives in there too. But I appreciate the fact that, the biggest thing probably in my mind was that he is going to win the popular vote, because that's always their argument. The Electoral College is broken. But by winning the popular vote, it's hard to deny that this was a mandate by America, and that gives us a lot of power going forward.
Scott, thanks for spending time with us. Thanks for what you do in Washington, D.C. We'll be watching, and we'll be talking with you very, very soon. Take care.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me on.
All right, absolutely. This is Representative Scott DesJarlais joining us for a few moments. No never-Trumpers up there anymore, not in the Republican Party. They're all in Trump land now, which is one of the reasons that I am more optimistic than many about the results of the Senate majority leadership election. Did I want Rick Scott? Yes. Marsha Blackburn, I don't want to say she changed her tune because I'm going to try to give her the benefit of the doubt, and I know none of you want me to, but I'm going to, and I'll do that next on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Hello, friends. This is Matt Murphy for Tennessee Men's Clinic. Gentlemen, I want to talk to you for a moment. Now, obviously, if your lady is in the automobile with you or around, or if you are the wife, the spouse of someone who's experiencing low energy lately, well, you can listen up too, because these are solutions for the both of you, truly for the both of you. Because if your intimacy has been lacking for one reason or another, if it's a problem with your T levels or perhaps something else, maybe it's time that we figure this out. The Tennessee Men's Clinic has been doing it for a long time. I know you've heard the commercials, and I know, gentlemen, if you've noticed it in your own life, maybe you're walking away from it. I like to say, whistle past the graveyard, pretend things aren't what they are. Well, it's time to stop pretending and get to a solution for this issue. You can get that intimacy back in your life again and in your relationship again with the Tennessee Men's Clinic. There are two locations for you. One's in Midtown, been there since 2014. The Cool Springs/Franklin location opened just over a year ago. The number is the same for both. Schedule an appointment today, and let's handle this, men. 615-208-9090. 208-9090. TennesseeMen'sClinic.com online for Tennessee Men's Clinic.
Hear what the new Republican leader in the U.S. Senate just said. Tennessee 4th District Congressman Scott DesJarlais tells us about a rule he'd like for the House to change. President-elect Trump and President Biden exchange pleasantries. Want to know what's not pleasant? Americans' credit card debt. Tell you about that at 1 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. I think Representative Mike Collins beat us to our joke, Bell. You know, we made the joke with Scott DesJarlais moments ago about demanding that he tell us who he voted for in the United States Senate.
Even though he can't.
Even though he can't because he's a House member. So Mike Collins yesterday went up on the X machine and said, I will not be voting for John Thune or John Cornyn for Senate Majority Leader, and you can't say anything that will make me change my mind. And people lost their minds. So much so that they had to community note him, and the community note said, Mike Collins is a member of the House of Representatives and does not have a vote in the United States Senate. All right, here comes the news. There's Ken Weaver back there on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Hang in.
One o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Senator John Thune of South Dakota, the next majority leader.
I'm excited to get to work with this team right away. And I want to thank my colleagues who placed their faith in me to serve as leader. And to those who were supporting another candidate, I promise to be a leader who serves the entire Republican conference.
Thune said he'll make sure the president and his team have the tools and support that they need to enforce border security laws and remove violent criminals he says are wreaking havoc in every state, overturn Biden-Harris regulations, and restore American energy dominance, which he says will lower costs and bolster national security. Now over in the House, Tennessee 4th District Congressman Scott DesJarlais telling WTN's Matt Murphy they'll meet tomorrow on amendments to the current rules.
I'd like to see him get rid of the single-person motion to vacate the chair. I don't like that rule that any one person can do it, because in a slim majority, every Democrat's going to vote against your speaker. So literally 3 or 4 people can oust a speaker. Last time it took 8 Republicans and all the Democrats to oust a speaker.
And look who was back at the White House today, Sherry Preston.
At the White House, a rare sit-down between President Biden and President-elect Trump. The current president welcomed the incoming president, both shaking hands and holding talks in the Oval Office. President Biden says there will be a smooth transition.
Thank you very much. And politics is tough, and it's many cases not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate it very much. A transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get.
The White House says it appears the meeting lasted less than 2 hours, with Chief of Staff Jeff Zients and President-elect Trump's new Chief of Staff Susie Wiles also in attendance. The First Lady Jill Biden gave President-elect Trump a handwritten letter of congratulations for the former First Lady Melania Trump, who did not attend.
Americans' credit card balances ballooning to $1.17 trillion in the third quarter of this year, climbing $24 billion in just 3 months. Total household debt, including student loans, mortgages, and auto loans, now stands at nearly $18 trillion. Despite this, the New York Fed says rising disposable income is helping cushion the impact. Delinquency rates showed slight improvement last quarter, but more consumers are falling behind on payments compared to last year. Those balances and delinquencies often spike during the holiday season. Inflation slightly edged up last month. It was in line with expectations, although prices in certain areas like housing and childcare remain high.
Inflation was up 2.6% in October from 1 year ago. That is worse than the 2.4% rate in September, which was a 3-year low. The Federal Reserve wants to see inflation around 2%, and we are close to that target. The Fed is expected to stay the course with another interest rate cut next month.
That's Elizabeth Schulze and the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
You hear the man? Cool conditions coming. Cool conditions already here. You're probably turning on that heater, and if you've not maintained your heater with Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling, you're smelling that smell. You know the smell I'm talking about. That smell of burning dust or dander or whatever. I mean, that can't be good for you and the family. These are health concerns that we ought to take seriously, friends. It's part of the reason that I encourage you to call Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. Allow him to get to you to fix the problems that ail your heater and to maintenance the thing and clean it out to make sure that your health is not in danger in your home. Jeff Eddy's going to solve what issues you might have with your heating unit for the wintertime months. And, you know, sadly, these things have a life cycle. And if it's time, he'll tell you that it is time. They're an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. They can recommend the right unit for you. They keep overhead down, never charge you overtime. They are the best in the business when it comes to fixing the heater that you need over the winter months. Let's go ahead and make the call, get that maintenance going. 615-784-4424, 784-4424, or efficienthvac.net. All right, here we are. Here we go. It's the Matt Murphy Radio Show, Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Glad to have you with us. We will continue our conversation about the political ramifications of our elections last week. Obviously, Senate Majority Leader vote today. I'll break that down for you coming up in just a couple of minutes. We've got all of that coming up, but also coming up, I mean, just a little bit from now. As a matter of fact, in just several days. This is what, Wednesday? So Thursday, Friday, Saturday. 3 days from now at the Municipal Auditorium, there's a big event coming down, Armored MMA, and I'm so happy that we are a part of it. Originally, it was going to be Chris Hand versus Matt Murphy in the squared circle, as they say. But corporate said, no, that's not to be. Sadly, we will not be donning the armor, and we will not be getting inside of the ring ourselves. However, we have somebody that is. He's my guy. He's representing the Murphy Show. I know Hand's got his own representation, but Dakota joins us on the show right now to talk about Armored MMA and everything that is a part of it and all the spectacle that will be Saturday night when doors open at 6 o'clock. Dakota, what's happening, my friend?
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Man, it's a pleasure to have you. I want to tell you, I wanted to get you on the line before I told this full story, Dakota. So how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing the steel fighting for about 3 years now. I've been doing other types of martial arts and armored combat since 2016, so for about 8 years.
So, Dakota, we were originally slated. The idea was when we talked to the guys over at Armored MMA, they said, you guys should, don the armor and get in the ring and combat and compete. And I'm like, okay, that sounds great to me. And our corporate overlord said, no, that's not in your contract. You can't do that. Then we went to the Nashville training facility over near the Gaylord Opryland Mall in Nashville. And I know you're up in Louisville, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Louisville
Okay.
Royals.
So you weren't there, but we watched these. we watched the training, and the crew over at Armored MMA told us that they were going at about 60%. And I looked at Chris Hand and I said, thank God for corporate, because I don't think we could do this. Man, y'all get after it, guy.
Oh, it's intense. Yeah, it really is. And, the armor weighs anywhere from 50 pounds up to 80 to 90 pounds when you add it all up.
We're talking with Dakota Walker, who is one of the combatants coming into town Saturday, and he'll be on the card Saturday night. There's a lot of different fights on the card Saturday night. But tell folks who aren't familiar with Armored MMA, how this kind of came about and what they can expect at the Municipal Auditorium.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's nothing that you've seen before. I'll tell you, there's nothing as violent. I mean, the closest we can come to would be, if you've seen UFC cage fights, that's about as violent as it is. But the armor does its job. So you're probably not going to see too much blood or too many injuries because, we are trained fighters. We're professionals. We train for this stuff. And but we do like to put on a good show. None of it's not a reenactment. It's not staged. I mean, imagine, UFC fighters in a cage with armor on and with weapons in their hands and shields in their hands, and there's almost no rules. I mean, you can do punches, kicks, throws, elbows, knees. I mean, you name it. The only thing you really can't do is there's no stabbing for obvious reasons. We're using steel weapons, so that's the things that really would have killed knights in period. So that really is a little bit too dangerous. But it's great. There's a lot of very dynamic fighters that you'll see. My opponent's he's very experienced in the cage. He's going to put on a show, and I don't want to give any spoilers, but he's got his own entrance that's very unique if you want to watch it on pay-per-view. But I highly suggest you guys get down there live, get in the crowd. It's electric in there, and those guys put on a fantastic show. I've been down there twice now, and they've got lights and smoke and music, and I mean, it is a fantastic event.
Dakota Walker's our guest, and tell everybody who you're taking on Saturday night.
Yeah, so I'll be fighting John Bibby, and he's part of the Nashville crew down there. And those are some of the best, what we call pro fighters in the game. Mickey Gallus down there, he's the guy that runs the show, and he's the head coach down there. He's the one that puts on this AMMA stuff, and he's one of the best fighters in the country, maybe even the world. So he's very, very good at what he does, and he trains those guys very well. I've attended their practices before. Learned a ton while I was down there, and brought it back to share it with the Louisville guys.
Well, let me tell you, for those considering, whether or not this is, what they're going to get into, what John and the team over there told me when we were watching the training, and you tell me, I mean, Dakota, it's fascinating because the armor is as realistic as you can get it to, period, and the weapons that you use are steel. They're like, these are not. He told me that what they require you guys to do is to kind of blunt the tip because you don't want to stab anybody, and to kind of blunt the edges because you don't want to slice anybody open. And what I was told, and tell me if I'm wrong, Dakota, that the only rules that you guys are asked is don't intentionally hit people where there's no armor because you don't want to break bones or whatever. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And that's about it.
There's no intentional hits to the groin, no intentional hits to the back of the knee, which is about the only place that we don't have armor. And they usually say, vertical strikes to the spine is frowned upon, and don't intentionally hit at the neck. And that's really about the only thing that you can't do, and that's really just for safety reasons.
I like it. Dakota says vertical shots to the spine, they're frowned upon. They're frowned. How did you get into this, Dakota?
Oh man, I tell you, there's other leagues of armored combat that are a little bit different. Steel fighting is relatively new in this. It's a relatively new sport. It's only about maybe 8 years old total. So it started in Russia with it's called M1 armored combat. I think I don't even think it exists anymore, but. Yeah, those guys started it, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and then it gradually made its way across Europe and to the United States about 8 or so years ago. So it's relatively new, but, I mean, there's teams all over the world. I mean, this is something that, I think I saw a different type of armored combat that uses rattan weapons, like bamboo, basically wooden weapons, still armored combat. It's not as full contact. So basically I started in that. Then I met some steel guys that were training in the Louisville Combat Academy, and I was like, man, I tried steel weapons, and it was more full contact, and that was what I was looking for. I think I wanted something a little bit more real, a little bit more full contact, and it was a little bit more exciting. And as I like to say, it was just more buttons on the controller you could push. Like I can kick now, I can knee, I can do a throw. And it just, makes it a lot more fun to do, and it's a lot more entertaining to watch. That's for sure.
Well, you'll get your money's worth, and I encourage people to go over to armoredmma.com to find out how you can buy your tickets now to the Municipal Auditorium event. This is the Big Fighting Championship coming up this Saturday night. Doors are opening at 6, and the card starts promptly at 7 o'clock. And there's I don't want to give a figure, but I think there's like 8 or 10 matches on the card, if I'm not mistaken. Dakota, do you know that number?
Yeah, there's going to be 12.
12.
There's going to be 5 exhibition fights, 5 pro fights, and then 2 championship fights. This is the biggest card that we've had at AMMA ever, and it's the last fight of the year. So definitely get on it if you can.
Listen, if you have 10-year-old boys or 8-year-old boy, and tell me if I'm saying something that's out of school here, but I feel like if you've got a 10-year-old boy and you want to see some incredible entertainment for your young man or young girl. I mean, it doesn't matter. And even if you don't have kids, you'll have fun too. But this is what it's all about at Municipal Auditorium Saturday night.
Hey, this is for everybody. So this is for everybody. It's electric when you get in there. The crowd is always fantastic. It's all ages. I mean, when I was there last time, there were, young kids running around, pretending they were sword fighting, and they sell some good merchandise too, little foam swords they can use. And I had a middle-aged woman behind me with her family, and she was the loudest person screaming for blood. So it was interesting.
So do you have, Dakota, do you come into this with do you have your own thing? I mean, do fighters, I guess you just kind of style it to fit your own personality? Is that kind of the way that it goes?
Sure. I mean, like I said, John Bibby, he's got a unique entrance that he brings to it that's entertaining for the crowd. I probably don't have anything as flashy as he's got, but as far as fighting styles, there's different kinds of fighting styles that you'll see. And if you've watched UFC before, it's kind of like that. Some guys prefer to be stand-up strikers. Some guys prefer to be more grappling. Some guys are a little bit of everything. So you'll see a little bit of different things. I think Bibby's probably a stand-up striker guy. He does have some grappling as well. I'm more of a dynamic fighter. I kind of do a little bit of everything, but I don't mind to stand and strike if that's what my opponent wants to do. I don't mind to grapple if that's what he wants to do. So I think I'll take it round by round. And we'll see.
But and when we're talking with Dakota Walker, who is fighting against John Bibby, Dakota is my guy. I'm going to be in your corner. I will help you absolutely zero, Dakota. You probably know that. And John Bibby, Chris Hand is going to have him in his corner. And you're just like, you take it as it comes. Y'all have never fought? Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, we've never fought. And you're in my corner, right? So that means I can tag out, right?
Oh, absolutely. Any point that you want to tag out, and I'll throw in the towel, and we officially give up. That's what. Look, I'll tell you. You mentioned Mickey down here in Nashville. He was kind of like the enigma when we went into train. Everybody's talking about Mickey. Everybody's talking about that. Like, nobody wants to fight Mickey. Nobody wants to take him on. Nobody wants to train with him. And I'm like, what is it about this guy? And then I saw him training with a couple of the students, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. I mean, he is. You mentioned he's like the top armored MMA guy, maybe in the world.
I mean, yes, he's. I would put him in the top tier for certain.
What is it about that? I mean, when you are in there training, what are you working on to get yourself better and to improve your skill levels?
Well, I mean, just like any sport, the baseline is going to be your what we call cardio. So how long can you fight before you get tired out? So it's different than MMA or UFC because those guys aren't training for having 70 pounds on their body and swinging weapons around. So the training is a little bit different, and I tell you, like John Bibby and I, we're only going to be fighting 3 1-minute rounds, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but in armor, in kit, going full speed, I mean, that is incredibly exhausting, and I will say that's one of Mickey's strengths is his cardio is the best I've ever seen. The man doesn't get tired. He goes 100 miles an hour the entire fight, and he's got tons of skills. I mean, if you get in close with him, he's going to throw you. If you want to fight the long game, he's got sword skills as well. So it's, he's good all around.
I've got a number of people asking questions. I'm going to kind of pepper you with some of these questions that are coming in from the Super Text line. TB writes in and says, is the armor standard? Do you have to wear the same kind of armor?
Yeah, there are armor standards. There's safety specifications that everybody has to have, and we do have authenticity rules. Meaning your armor does have to come from a certain period. In our case, it's the 14th and 15th centuries. So it does have to be from a certain region. Basically there's 2 styles. There's what we call Western European style, and there's Eastern European style. And it's hard to describe to you, but if you saw 2 pictures, you'd know exactly what I'm talking about. But I would say most fighters prefer to wear the Western European style. I wear the Western European style. John Bibby also wears the Western European style. But the armors they do look different, but you've got some that are maybe a little bit more tanky, I guess, a little heavier, and it gives you more protection. And then there's some that are a little bit lighter, less protection, but more mobility. So there's a range that you can kind of pick, and depending on what your fighting style is, that's the kind of armor that you kind of pick.
No, I love this because, I mean, it's that balance, right? Because if you get more protection, it's going to weigh more. and it's going to weigh you down a little bit. And less protection weighs less. You have an advantage there, but it creates a disadvantage. How much does your helmet weigh?
My helmet's about maybe 14 or 15 pounds, but that's on the way light side. I mean, helmets go all the way up to 20 pounds and beyond, depending on how heavy you need.
But we picked up a few of the helmets. I actually put on Bibby's helmet the other night when we were at training, and it's like an 18 or 19 pound deal. I mean, and it is a lot of weight on your head, and it makes you kind of like, you get top heavy, right? And you can understand with all that weight on your shoulders and your chest, if somebody rocks you on your shoulder, I mean, it can topple you over if you're not ready for it and if you're not trained to accept it.
Absolutely, yeah. And, people don't think about the vision and the breathing as well. Your vision is slightly limited depending on the type of helmet that you have. And, imagine, like if football guys had a full face mask on, not just bars, but a full face mask on, and they're trying to run around and do all the things they're trying to do while breathing their own carbon dioxide, that's one of the things that tires you out more quickly as well.
Man, Dakota, I love everything about it. So excited that you're coming into town. So excited that I've got you in my corner against John Bibby. You mentioned that the round levels, 3 1-minute rounds. Where were you? And obviously the entire card's going to be great. Where are you guys going to be on the card? Do you know yet?
We're fight number 5. We're the last exhibition fight.
Oh, man, I absolutely love it. It's going to be exciting. Tickets are available at armoredmma.com. I'll do all of the particulars, and I'll tell everybody how they can get tickets here in just a moment. But Andy wants to know, will there be turkey legs and ale? Do you know the answer to that question, Dakota?
I wish they did have some turkey leg vendors down there. I know they do have food, and they will have beverages, adult beverages as well. So it's always, they take care of you down there. There's merchandise, anything you can think of, they're going to have it down there.
I'll tell Andy, you bring the family out, and you buy tickets to the event, and I'll make sure that I bring a turkey leg in the form of Dan Mandis. That's our morning show host, Dakota. Don't worry about that. So, Dakota, great stuff, man. ArmoredMMA.com for tickets availability right there. You can also sign up for pay-per-view if you can't be at the event. You can sign up and watch the event from home. It is happening at the Nashville Municipal Auditorium this Saturday night. Doors open at 6. Fights start at 7 o'clock. All ages are welcome. Dakota, we welcome you into Nashville, and we'll be wishing you the best of luck on Saturday night, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me, Matt.
Absolutely.
Hey, y'all should cheer for the blue guy. I'll be the blue knight. John Bibby's the red knight.
All right. Blue knight. Go blue knight. Let's go. I mean, blue, and thanks, Dakota, blue took a beating last Tuesday. It's time for blue to deliver a beating this Saturday night at Municipal Auditorium. I'll give you more information about how you can sign up. Plus, there's a very special opportunity for you to give back to Nashville Rescue Mission, and I'm going to tell you about that in just a couple of minutes on Supertalk 99.7 WTN.
Well, several media organizations are just 1, 2, 3, 4 projecting Republicans will retain a majority in the House. We've got that and more coming up at 1:30 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. Ken Weaver, I want to know if you would ever consider donning the armor and getting into the old squared circle and combating armored MMA.
Never.
Would you drink a cold beer and eat a turkey leg and watch others do it?
I'd drink 2 beers and eat 3 turkey legs.
They'd say, and I'd be right there beside you, my friend.
I'd cheer them on.
No, it was serious. So Chris and I talked about trying to convince the company to go into the ring and, like, put on the stuff and just, knock around and do whatever.
Yeah.
And then we went and watched them train. And both of us looked at each other. It was like, because we were kind of annoyed because the company said, no, you can't do that. You can't go in there with swords, and you can't jump out of airplanes, and you can't do this, and you can't do that.
Right.
And we were annoyed at the time. I was like, come on, stupid Cumulus.
Oh, what could happen? Come on now.
And then we went and watched them train, and we're like, boy, thank you, Cumulus overlords. Those people are crazy.
Yeah. I mean, they're just like MMA fighters
with armor,
but with armor on,
and they've got big old swords, and they bash one another, and they pick it up, and they kick each other, knock each other down, and then one guy knocked the other guy down, and the other guy jumped on top of him, and I was like, man, is this what we're going to say? He goes, oh, no, they're only going at about 50%.
Yeah, they're just halfway.
We're just halfway there.
So do they use, I think it's called a mace. Isn't that like the stick with a ball and steel, an iron ball with a chain on it?
That is correct. They had some of those in the training facility. They had the big maces, and they had the big old axes. Oh yeah, they've got all of that. Now I don't know how often people come out with it. I think you have to have a weapon and a shield. Those are your two things. And the shield size depends on the competitor. You can have whatever size shield you want.
Yeah.
And the weapon, I think, depends on the competitor as well. So I think there are disadvantages to the old mace. Disadvantages to it. I don't know what those would be because it looks pretty dastardly. I mean, start swinging that sucker around.
I mean, here's the thing. Even with that armor on, it hurts. It's got to hurt.
I mean, yes. Absolutely. No. John Bibby, who was over at Nashville. We didn't talk to Mickey very much, but John Bibby, we were talking to him, who's taking on Dakota Saturday night. He told us, no, if you get into when you get into a match, you are bruised the next day.
Oh, I bet.
That you are sore and hurting the next day. This is the real deal. I mean, I love it. No, that's what they told me. I said, so how does this differ from the real thing? He said, well, they made us blunt the weapons, so we can't have them sharp and we can't have them pointy on the end.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And he goes, we ask people not to intentionally hit someone where there's no armor. And I was like, all right. And he said, and no kicking anybody in the junk. And I was like, well, what else? He said, that's it. Everything else is fair game. Let's go. I was like, okay, let's go.
Yeah, man. It looks like something fun to watch.
Yes.
But there's no way I'd ever do that.
Tickets are very affordable, by the way, for those asking. And I got to get to Ken Weaver's newscast here. But tickets, you can get tickets as low as $40. They are available for you to get in, and there's not a bad seat in the house at Nashville Municipal Auditorium. So and I think all of the VIP seats are sold out. As a matter of fact, I know they are because I'm looking right now. But you can get in at a relatively low price. Just go over to armoredmma.com. That's armoredmma.com to find out more. And I have a very special offer that I'm going to talk to you about either some point today or maybe tomorrow. I'll let you know because I don't know if I can reveal this offer. There is a VIP table available to someone who is willing to give to the Nashville Rescue Mission. This is something very important to these guys. I'll talk more about that in a moment. It's time for news on Supertalk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast coming up in 5 minutes at Election 2024. Now you have ABC, CBS, Reuters, MSNBC, NBC, all saying Republicans have won enough seats to keep control of the House of Representatives. Republicans projected to hit the 218-seat threshold in the House. Republicans have also won at least 52 seats in the Senate. So WTN's Matt Murphy asked Tennessee 4th District Congressman Scott DesJarlais about what will be a slim majority in the House.
The numbers in the House are concerning in the sense that if somebody's sick, if somebody's plane gets delayed, I guess if it's a big vote, we can always move the vote to the following week. But it's a slim majority, and as you saw last Congress, or I guess we're still in the 118th Congress, it's like herding cats, and we really need to unite and speak freely with the Senate and the White House to make sure that we get our big-ticket items through.
Now, the Senate will be controlled by Republicans next term. Lawmakers on that side of the aisle chose John Thune as the new majority leader.
This Republican team is united. We are on one team. We are excited to reclaim the majority and to get to work with our colleagues in the House to enact President Trump's agenda.
Yeah, Mary Bruce is covering today's return to the White House for President-elect Donald Trump, meeting with President Biden in the Oval Office.
I was in the room there as the pool reporter today in the Oval for that, and it really felt like both the president-elect and the president, after this bitter, hard-fought campaign, were really trying to bring down the temperature there.
Biden welcomed Trump, and Trump said he was looking forward to a smooth transition process. Here in Nashville, another fatal hit and run, with authorities asking anyone with information to call Crime Stoppers. An 18-year-old Antioch woman died Monday night after being hit on I-24 near Bell Road. She was in the middle of the interstate when she was struck by an unknown vehicle that kept on going. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Supertalk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and you. It is 38 after the hour. Thank you for being with us. 615-737-9986. If you'd like to be a part of the show, 615-737-9986. Would love to hear from you. We have, as a matter of fact, not opened up the phone lines as of yet today. Well, I mean, they're always open, but no one's taken advantage of those. I'm curious where you are on this issue of the Senate Majority Leader. It's gotten a lot of conversation. I mean, look, let's understand something. And far be it from me to be the optimist in the room. That is not my nature. I'm the guy yelling and screaming about the bad things that are coming. But I do want to be somewhat optimistic about where we are and where we are going with regard to this United States of America and this incoming 119th Congress. But I understand that a lot of frustration exists. Look, it's not going to please you for me to say this, but I'm not going to go along with the Twitter mob that suggests that if sitting senators that decided to vote for Thune or Cornyn are traitors. Let's stop using language that the political left uses. Let's not be hyperbolic like the political left decides to do. Let's not take up the language of the left, shall we? Let's not. Now, if you want to believe them to be traitors to the cause or, whatever, but traitors to their country, come on now. Because that's what you're getting from social media platforms right now. That anybody that voted for Thune or anybody that voted for Cornyn, anybody that voted against Rick Scott for Senate Majority Leader, they are traitors to their country and should be treated as such. Well, look, they're going to face the voters of their individual states. That's how this system works. I mean, I have faith in the Constitution of the United States of America. And 7861, you can use whatever language you want. And if you want to act like an ass, like Democrats have acted, I mean, they called Donald Trump everything but a child of God over the last 3 months. I'm better than them. And you should be too. Wag my finger at you too. But yeah, I mean, you can use whatever language you want. That's fine. I mean, it's a free country. That's fine. If you want to destroy what we have going for us, that's fine. It's not a problem until it's a problem. It's not a problem until it's a problem. Now, we saw the power of the people in the state of Tennessee. We saw Marsha Blackburn vote for Rick Scott. Now, her people, and I'll just give you a little of the backstory because I've been talking about it for 2 days, and I've been encouraging you to call her office or express your desire to have her make her pick for Rick Scott, and you did, and she did. That's a victory for the state of Tennessee. That's a victory for your voice. And we should be happy for that. Now, some have asked how we actually know whether or not Marsha did what she said she was going to do. And we don't, because it's a stupid secret ballot. Now, if there's anything we need to take away from this, and if there's any fight that we need to fight moving forward, it's to demand that anyone serving in the United States Senate declare preemptively before they are elected that they will not support secret ballots any longer, for any reason, for any purpose. They serve zero purpose. The idea that it's a secret ballot ticks me off more than someone voting for John Thune. And someone voting for John Thune kind of ticks me off too. As I said yesterday, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. Just call Trump and ask him who he thinks should be the next Senate Majority Leader. And whoever he tells you, vote for that guy or gal. But the Senate is, if anything, the ultimate good old boys and girls club. And, it's that ultimate gentleman's club where they do things a little bit differently. They're just a bunch of elitists, okay? A bunch of elitists. Trump is the president of the United States. And let's not make the minor thing the main thing. The main thing is that Donald Trump will see his agenda presented in the House of Representatives with a Republican majority. He will see his agenda presented in the United States Senate. How that manifests itself remains to be seen. But the expectation is, as it was yesterday, it is today, that the Senate Majority Leader, now it's going to be John Thune, we expect him to carry the water for the Trump agenda in the United States Senate. Now, Sean writes in, and he's correct, and I will not read his entire super text because some of it's nasty. Matt, you have no idea how she voted. She's a lying bleep. I would bet anything she voted for Thune. With that being said, let's see what happens. We may be surprised, but I doubt it. She was not on the list as someone voting for Thune in the first round of voting. So I hate the fact that these are secret ballots and we have to do this, but I do believe that the initial vote will leak. I do believe that the numbers match up with the amount of people that we heard publicly telling us. We heard Bill Hagerty publicly telling us. We heard Marco Rubio saying as much, that he would vote for Rick Scott. That's 2. Ted Cruz is 3. Marsha Blackburn is 4. Tommy Tuberville's 5. I mean, you can kind of start doing the math on your own and figure out if the numbers match up. And if the numbers don't match up, then we can figure out that somebody's lying, and we find out who's lying from there. I do believe that Rick Scott had an opportunity had he dispatched of one or the other, but it is what it is. Once again, these are procedural matters that will ultimately, we'll find out whether or not John Thune is going to be a problem when the 119th Senate convenes. Now, I'm not here to pour cold water on your anger. And you know what? I got annoyed at the super text. I probably shouldn't have. They're like, you don't tell us what to say and what to do. Whatever. That's fine. If you want to use some of this ridiculous language, that's up to you. I don't tell you what to do. But I don't think we should lose sight of who the real enemies in Washington, D.C. are. They're the Democrats. It's Chuck Schumer. It's the individuals on the political left. I mean, if you want to talk about a guy that doesn't get it, I mean, forget John Thune for a moment. Listen to this guy.
Now let me turn to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. Another closely contested election now comes to an end.
Yeah, and you got your butt whipped.
To my Republican colleagues, I offer a word of caution in good faith.
You know what? I don't want to hear about your words of caution. Your political party just got done calling our candidate Hitler and a Nazi. You called your political party, and your president of the United States of America called us garbage. And now you want a word of caution in good faith? You, screw.
Take care not to misread the will of the people, and do not abandon the need for bipartisanship.
Let him keep going.
After winning an election, the temptation may be to go to the extreme. We've seen that happen over the decades, and it's consistently backfired on the party in power.
Oh, you mean when Barack Obama won election and the Democrats were in control and they crammed Obamacare down our throats without a single Republican vote? Is that the kind of thing you're talking about there, Chucky boy?
So instead of going to the extremes, I remind my colleagues that this body is most effective when it's bipartisan. If we want in the next 4 years the Senate to be as productive as the last 4, the only way that will...
What is he talking about? What have they done in the last 4 years besides the Inflation Reduction Act? Joe Biden's signature piece of legislation was the Inflation Reduction Act. Go look at the price of eggs and bacon right now. What is this dude even talking about?
Will happen is through bipartisan cooperation. Democrats will be ready to do what we have consistently done. Work with both sides when the opportunity arises.
Screw the American
Democrats
people.
will never abandon our values, but neither will we reject an opportunity to move the ball forward.
Their values includes socialistic values. You know, these people caucus with Bernie Sanders, who is a socialist. Elizabeth Warren is a socialist. Chuck Schumer is a quasi-socialist. These are the values that we're talking about.
Make people's lives better when
and by the way, if they had the ability to destroy Donald Trump right now, they would.
We can. The question is now whether or not Republicans are willing to do the same.
You know what? I'm not going to allow myself to get too worked up. As I said in the first hour, this is a question of mind over matter. I don't mind because you don't matter. And as long as Republicans hold the line, and one of the reasons that people are rightly frustrated today over the vote for John Thune, and I'm trying to take a wait-and-see attitude because I trust my man. I trust a DJT. I said the same thing when there was a rumor running around about him selecting Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, although I think I don't know that rumor's coming to anything because I feel like if that were the case, he would have already announced it, and he hasn't. Maybe I'm wrong. I trust my man that I just voted for. I don't trust any of these jokers in the United States Senate, but I trust DJT. And I trust that they understand the mandate that he just received. So mind over matter, I don't mind because you don't matter. The political left doesn't matter. The mainstream media has become as ineffective as it has ever been in my lifetime in changing the narrative, moving the needle on any issue whatsoever. The American people are smarter and more informed than ever before. And we got good things coming. I'm going to choose to be hopeful and happy as opposed to angry. And one of the reasons that I just beg of you to hesitate on this Senate Majority Leader vote, why do we have to snatch happy from the jaws of anger? Or no, snatch angry from the jaws of happy. You guys know what I'm talking about. Why are we choosing to be angry about what is ultimately a smaller matter in the grand scheme of things instead of continuing to delight over how we absolutely destroyed the left just one Tuesday and 1 week and 1 Tuesday ago? Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Alice and JD, will get to you in a moment. Once again, I want to remind you, and I'm not trying to tell you how to feel about anything, but I think if you're all mad about this John Thune thing, put your faith in DJT, please. My boy's got this. Your boy's got this. You'll be okay. We'll get what we want out of this. 615-737-9986, 51 after the hour.
Election 2024 update. It looks like a clean sweep for the GOP. Tell you about it at 2 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver, 158, Supertalk 99.7 WTN. A couple of minutes before we get to that newscast. By the way, Belle, I know you're not necessarily a dog lover. You don't hate them either, but you're just you're a cat
I
owner.
absolutely love dogs.
Okay, well, I mean, why don't you have one then?
Because I have cats.
So, well, dogs and cats can live together.
In sin.
Have you seen the, and I didn't catch this, I was so caught up in the election cycle, and I was so distraught over my beloved Georgia Bulldogs getting their butts whipped by Ole Miss. Have you seen the tribute that they gave to Ben, the Golden Retriever, on College Game Day for Kirk Herbstreit?
Oh, man.
I have not.
Have you seen it, Ken?
Break your heart?
Yeah.
Rip your guts out. Rip your guts out.
Herbstreit himself was.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
He couldn't. And the design was, I didn't see it live, but I saw it last. The design was for Herbstreit to intro it.
Yeah.
And there's a sweet moment. I've long said that Lee Corso, I wish he would retire because
He's up there.
Yeah, I mean, he's up there.
up
And,
there.
and he's a hard watch sometimes. And Kirk Herbstreit has consistently had Corso's back. They're friends, right? And as Corso recovered from his stroke and as he was having difficulty talking, sometimes Corso can't get his words out. And Herbstreit constantly protects him,
Right.
has his back.
Yep.
And there's a moment where Herbstreit was supposed to introduce the piece on his dog Ben, and he just started bawling. He just started crying. He couldn't do it. And 89-year-old Lee Corso reaches over and touches his shoulder, and it's just so very tender and very sweet. Watch that if y'all have a chance. If you're a dog lover, woo, rip your guts out. That is the bargain we make.
It is.
I have a monologue called The Bargain that I gave after John Henry died, and it is true. It's the bargain we make, and it doesn't make it any easier. Anyway, more happy things coming up right after the newscast. I can't promise the news will be happy, but I'll be happier when we come back from it on Supertalk 99.7 WTN.
Two o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 5 minutes. And Republicans now widely projected to retain a majority in the U.S. House, hitting the 218 threshold. Meanwhile, members are going to meet tomorrow on rules in the next Congress. In Tennessee, 4th District Congressman Scott DesJarlais telling WTN's Matt Murphy there is one change he'd like.
I think a lot of times the conservative base doesn't want to bring a bill to the floor where you don't have the majority of the majority, and I think that's fair. But I also think that it should take a larger number to oust a speaker.
Meanwhile, Republicans have elected Senator John Thune as majority leader. That's in the Senate, handing over the reins to Mitch McConnell's number 2 at the start of the new year.
Senator John Thune of South Dakota will succeed the longest-serving leader in Senate history. He bested Texas Senator John Cornyn in a narrow secret ballot vote, while Senator Rick Scott, a Trump ally, came in third. Thune pledged to work closely with President-elect Trump.
This Republican team is united. We are on one team. We are excited to reclaim the majority and to get to work with our colleagues in the House to enact President Trump's agenda.
Republicans will have a 2- or 3-seat majority to advance legislation and confirm Trump's nominations. Chris Boccia, ABC News, Washington.
Over at the White House, President-elect Trump was welcomed back by President Biden in the Oval Office today. Biden emphasizing his team will do all it can to ensure a smooth transition. Trump saying twice he appreciated that.
Thank you very much. And politics is tough, and it's in many cases not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate it very much. A transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get.
Here in Nashville, Metro Schools confirms 3 Hillsborough High School students, a driver and monitor, were on board a special needs bus that crashed into a concrete barrier on Briley Parkway near Centennial Boulevard this morning. The driver, the monitor, and at least one student had to be taken to the hospital to get checked out, but they're all expected to survive. Investigators still trying to determine the cause of that crash. And Americans are charging it. Credit card debt reaching an all-time high. Dave Packer reports.
Americans' credit card balances ballooning to $1.17 trillion in the third quarter of this year, climbing $24 billion in just 3 months. Total household debt, including student loans, mortgages, and auto loans, now stands at nearly $18 trillion. Despite this, the New York Fed says rising disposable income is helping cushion the impact. Delinquency rates showed slight improvement last quarter, but more consumers are falling behind on payments compared to last year. Those balances and delinquencies often spike during the holiday season.
And that's where we're at. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Hello, friends. Matt Murphy for Men of Valor. If you're looking for an organization to give to, or perhaps you're looking for a place to volunteer, might I recommend Men of Valor? Men of Valor deals with men truly in crisis. Now, obviously, when you're talking about men who are in prison or in the prison system or in the jail system, they've done something wrong against society, and they have to pay for that crime. But 90% of the men who do so will get out at some point. What type of men do we want coming out? Sadly, 50% of those who get out of prison they return within 3 years. But if they graduate from the Men of Valor program, that recidivism rate goes from 50% to less than 10%. That's an incredible rate of return. And it saves you money because if they're not back in the prison system, our tax dollars are not going to clothe and feed and house these individuals that have done something against society. So if you can give, please do. If you can give with your time as a job partner, a Bible study teacher, or a mentor, please do. They need volunteers in the system and at their campus for their aftercare reentry service. MOVministry.com for more information. That's MOVministry.com for our friends at Men of Valor. Hey, don't threaten me with holding golf. I saw that. Pardon me, I was just in the midst of a conversation, and now I'm continuing that conversation on the radio, and I feel like that's very rude. My name is Matt Murphy, and this is the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. I was just giving KGB hell for distracting Bell, and then KGB, who's taking me to play golf at some isn't it some fancy private place? And it's some fancy private resort? Where is it? Can you shout it out to me? Where are we going? Now, open the door. Where are we going? Troubadour. Okay. All of you fancy folks out there that know these fancy golf courses, you'll know that place. I don't know anything about that.
I'm going to look at it.
I go to the local municipal places myself. But anyway, I'm telling KGB, hey, stop distracting Bell. And he goes, you won't get to go play golf. I'm like, whoa. I'm not going to be held hostage by you, buddy.
Whew, that's a nice-looking place there, Brother Murphy.
Is it really?
Yes.
Is it nice? I bet it is. Who knew that?
They're not going to let you in.
You don't think?
No.
Well, is it the hair?
To start with.
The general attitude. Come on, kid Weaver, you can ride in the cart with me and drink some tall beers.
Well, that's all I will do because the only time I ever tried to golf, my first tee off the ball went out and then actually came back and landed behind me.
Huh.
That was my first drive, and the rest of the day was just, it was terrible.
My grandpa told the story of a similar tale when I started playing golf in my mid to late 20s. He said, I tried to play that thing one time. Some rich folks over in town, they asked me to come over, and they said, and I went in, and they let me borrow some clubs, and then they told me I'd need to buy my own golf balls. And so I said, well, how many? I'll have a pack of them. And he said they came in 3. And he said I had lost those 3 by the 3rd hole, and so I left. I was like, well, okay.
We kept having to stand off to the side because we were people were backing up behind us. So at one point we
had to let them play through.
Yeah, we had to let like three groups play through.
Oh, that's it. But at least you're courtesy about it. I just got a text from a loyal listener, Tim, who said Ken Weaver can't go either. They require shirts on the golf course.
I'd end up fishing in the pond.
Little pie. I used to play golf with a guy who had a pocket fisherman in his golf bag, and he would whip it out. I'm not kidding. On water holes, if we were back, he'd whip it out. Said, hell, I can't do anything on the golf course. Might as well try to catch some fish.
Oh, they got a nice looking lake.
Am I seeing this correctly, Ken Weaver? You might want to fact check me here, but I just saw a cryon that said that Trump had officially nominated Marco Rubio, Secretary of State.
All right, let me see. I will check.
Please check that for me. We've got Lee Zeldin as EPA Director. We got Mike Walls as National Security Advisor. Tom Homan as Border Czar. Kristi Noem as Department of Homeland Security. Musk and Vivek as Department of Government Efficiency. Secretary of Defense, we hadn't talked about this yet, Pete Hegseth, who is well known to our afternoon audience. He's on the, has been on the drive once a week for a long time. Brian Wilson and Pete, good buddies. And I got a chance to meet him out in Murfreesboro at Hop Springs at our vice presidential election watch party. And what a nice guy and what a qualified individual, no matter what liberals might tell you. Any news there, Ken?
Got 2 bronze medals, he does.
Oh, man, oh, man. Absolutely.
It is my great honor to announce that Senator Marco Rubio of Florida is hereby nominated to be United States Secretary of State.
All right. Anybody got any thoughts on that? 615-737-9986. Here's the deal, folks. As with the Senate Majority Leader, and I understand that there are people that are concerned, but I also understand there feels to be people out there that won't allow themselves to be happy for a desire to be mad. And I know that it's weird for me to say that because I'm normally the mad guy. I'm normally the guy that's yelling and screaming about something when everyone else is happy. And so this is an odd place for me to be right now. I am so elated as to what went down last Tuesday night. I am so happy that the United States of America saw fit to bring Donald Trump back to Washington, D.C., to correct the wrongs of the last 4 years, and to continue the agenda to make America great again. Let me promise you this. There were haters in 2016. There were haters in 2017 and 2018 and 2019 and 2020. All the Democrats tried to stymie the guy, and the Republicans didn't have his back. They understand who got the mandate this time around, and I'm talking to Thune and Cornyn and every one of them up there. And I don't care what Democrats do. It doesn't matter what the Democrats want. It doesn't matter what MSNBC has to say about any of this. You lose. I mean, I'm reminded of, remember the last scene from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? You know, hey, Mr. Wonka. You know, we were wondering about the chocolate, the lifetime supply of chocolate. There isn't any. Well, we were promised chocolate. You don't get any. You lose. Good day, sir. You know, and the kid brings back the everlasting gobstopper, and so shines a good deed in a cruel world. Well, to MSNBC and to CNN, #never, and to ABC, CBS, NBC, and to all of the Democrats in Washington, D.C., I say, you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir. Now, to my fellow conservative/libertarian/Republicans, now's the time to get busy getting the job done. And while it would not have been my choice in the Senate majority leadership role, I have no doubt that John Thune understands that message. And if he doesn't, we'll find somebody who does. Now, for those of you talking about traitor this and traitor that and how dare they and we'll vote them all out, well, I mean, that's all well and good, and that's wonderful. I would like to see a way that we could prevent any future secret ballots. That's my first priority. Secondarily, if we want to go about the business of voting out every Republican senator that voted for John Thune, okay. I mean, is that really the effort? Is that what? Why don't we wait to make sure that this is the disaster that everyone has decided it's going to be? Once again, I'm not trying to come off as a Pollyanna. But before we decide to kick out 29 United States senators, all Republicans, before we decide to do that, can we at least wait to see what happens? Is that okay with anyone else? Because let me tell you something. Some of my purity conservative friends sound a lot like the political left back in 2016 when Trump won the first time around. Now, if that hits too close to home, so be it. Oh, the left in 2016, and a lot of Republicans in 2016 decided that before the man even started selecting a cabinet that it was doomsday, that it was Russian interference, that it was, I mean, remember when the Democrats in the months of December, well, it was late November, early December of 2016, they already began the process of trying to draw up impeachment proceedings. And then Donald Trump selected Jeff Sessions as his attorney general. And then they wagged their finger, oh, Jeff Sessions is compromised. And Jeff Sessions sadly agreed with them. And I know Jeff Sessions, and Jeff Sessions is a good man. And I'll fight anybody that says he wasn't. But he made a bad decision, and he was not ready for that fight. Now, both things can be true at the same time. Was Jeff Sessions ready for the fight that the Democrats were engaged in as Attorney General of the United States? No, he was not. And I accept that and I admit it. But Jeff Sessions had his heart in the right place. He just wasn't ready. He's not a traitor to Trump. He just wasn't ready. But I remember all of these things like they were yesterday. I am elephantine in that way. What I also know is that I have faith in my man, and I'm not going to start beating ourselves up. Oh, Ted Cruz did that, or oh, this Republican did that. Or why are we fighting Republicans right now? Why aren't we celebrating our win? Honestly. Now, look, if I were a United States senator, I would have voted for Rick Scott. Our senators, Marsha Blackburn and Bill Hagerty, both said that they voted for Rick Scott. You can believe them or not believe them, and that's on them, because it's not my fault that the vote is secret. It's theirs. But I don't understand this mentality of we're going to vote them all out. What? Well, one, I don't live in these other states. And number two, why don't we wait to see what happens? Also, here's some good news. Oh, man. Oh, this has got me. I just saw it. In addition to Marco Rubio being selected as Secretary of State, and a lot of you are responding to that, Tulsi Gabbard. Hey, Bell. You like Tulsi Gabbard?
More so than not.
Would you like it if I told you that Tulsi Gabbard has been selected as Director of National Intelligence? I like that. I like that.
I'm okay with it. I mean, I'm not particularly excited, but the sky's not falling.
Well, I'm excited. I think that's great, because Tulsi Gabbard believes beyond everything else in transparency and allowing the American people to know what the American people need to know. I believe the same about John Ratcliffe, who was selected as the CIA director. Ratcliffe and Tulsi Gabbard believe in the concept of the American people getting to know what their government is doing for them and to them. Let's go. Also, as 2285 has noted, Bell, and something that I think you're conveniently omitting in your opinion of Tulsi, Tulsi is hot.
No, I concluded that.
I didn't hear it.
I just...
I heard the, well, no, whatever.
I don't dislike the woman. She just doesn't particularly make me want to jump up and run a marathon.
No woman makes me want to do that.
You know, this is
a smart man.
By the way, excuse me, Bill. I need to talk to Ken for a minute. Hey, Ken.
Yeah.
This is a different Bill, okay? I've noticed that since he started dating again, he has a different attitude about some of these chicks.
Stop it.
In DC.
Stop.
I'm just
Silence.
balls and strikes. I mean.
I promise not to use my host's youth and inexperience against him.
Sir, I've met Brian Wilson. Sir, Brian Wilson is a friend of mine. You, sir, know Brian Wilson. Oh, no, that's good. And I'm just picking Brian out of the blue. We were just doing an old debate trick. Okay, so Trump has now picked Marco Rubio for Secretary of State. He's picked Tulsi Gabbard as his director of national intelligence. All good selections. I just love what I see shaping up, and I'm going to choose to focus on the positive and not focus on the minor negative on this Rick Scott thing. I mean, I'm going to give Trump the benefit of the doubt that he can wrangle these cats and figure out what's going on in the United States Senate and that John Thune has his marching orders.
My favorite appointment so far is Homan, simply because that guy takes no crap.
Did you see what he said? I can't play it. Did you see what he said yesterday?
He has no F's to give, and he's not going to do it.
So yesterday he was speaking before an organization, and he said apparently these media organizations are freaking out. Oh, Homan's all about deporting. Homan loves to deport people. And he paused and he said, well, let me tell you guys something. You ain't seen bleep yet. And he said the word. And there was this pause, and then people went, yay!
Him taking apart AOC is the reason that video was invented.
Amen. All right, so your thoughts on the latest selections. 6682 wants to nominate me for chief director of something. I'll tell you what that is right after this.
What are you talking about? You're already the agriculture secretary. I'll put it in the title.
I don't know. They're nominating me for chief director of propaganda. I don't know if that's a positive thing or a negative thing for old 6682. We'll find out together. Alice, I'll get to you momentarily. I got to do this first. Randy, you and Brentwood. It's the Murphy Show on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. It's a crazy world, and oftentimes we do not know what's coming around the corner. But if you're in a place of business, if you go regularly to a place that people gather, like a school or a gym or a church setting, and you know the decision makers in those settings, would you mind letting them know that they need to call Defense Systems? Brink Fiddler, our friend, an incredible business owner in Middle Tennessee. Let's talk about Defense Systems for a moment. Defense Systems is a life safety and security consultation firm. In other words, they go into business models where people gather, like a business place or a school or a church or wherever it might be, concert venues and the like. And they help you understand how to best protect yourself and to plan for the unlikely event that negative something or another might happen, like workplace violence or, God forbid, a mass shooting. These things happen. They happen from time to time. The likelihood of them happening to you is very, very low, but you need to be prepared with Brink Fiddler. They're the best at Defense Systems. So I encourage you to reach out today and find out what they can do for your facility. 615-236-6484, 236-6484, or defensesystems.com.
2 more President-elect Trump appointments confirmed. That story and more coming up at 2:30 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Ken Weaver. Okay, so I may have on the X machine just posted my best tweet ever.
I got to look at that.
It is a photograph of Donald Trump and Joe Biden in the White House, and there's a caption on the photograph. And it might be the best X post that I've ever made. And you're invited to go see it at Matt Murphy's show if you're on the X machine. Is that a decent caption, kid? Is that pretty good?
Yeah.
And I believe it. I don't think that. Listen,
I'm going to have to repost that on Supertalk 99.7 WTN.
Get on it. I don't believe that's a mistake. I don't believe it's a mistake that Jill Biden on Election Day wore a bright red pantsuit to go vote.
Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you think that was just by happenstance that she just picked a bright red pantsuit to wear on Election Day?
It just happened to be at the top of her drawer of pantsuits.
Oh yeah, I mean all her bright blue suits were at the cleaners,
right?
I guess. And her "I voted" sticker, she arranged that in the shape of a big T. I mean, come on. Anyway, go if you want to know what it says, what the caption says of the Trump Biden photo, you'll have to go on the X machine and look up at Matt Murphy Show, or perhaps look us up on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Okay, Alice, I promised I'd get to you, and here we are. Hello, Alice. Good afternoon.
Hey, Matt Murphy.
Hey, Alice. Wait a minute. Do I know you?
You do. It's Alice Rowley. I've been on your show a couple of times.
I didn't know this was you. I'm sorry I made you wait so long.
You were saying on your show you needed people to call in, and I heard the call, and I just wanted to. I think what you were trying to do is to remind your listeners and all of us to celebrate winning. I've heard you say that a couple of times, but I just wanted to reflect on 20-something years ago when I worked in the United States Senate for Lamar Alexander. 1 year in a leadership election, he thought he would be the Republican whip, and he lost by 1 vote. And I remember him coming back. It was a secret ballot, and he came back and he said, well, I guess to be the whip, you have to know how to count the votes, and I didn't have the vote counts. And I think to be the majority leader, soon won, whether or not people voted how someone wanted. I think it's probably more of a symbol of somebody who can run the United States Senate. And we should judge how quickly they can get the entire Trump administration through the confirmation process, and then be happy or not about, was that the right leader to get the votes in line, to set things up, and to get the work done very quickly. And I think we should judge them after that. Give them 6 months and then pass judgment.
Well, I understand that if there's a problem that we want to be ready to address it. We don't want to give an inch to some of the Washingtonized guys up there and gals.
Yeah,
but I don't want to create problems before there are any. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and also too, the eyes of, I think, the world and our voters are looking at us to say, hey, Republicans, you've told us if you could only be in charge of all 3 branches of government, you could get a lot done. And so now we have no excuses, right? And if the United States Senate selected that person as their leader, then that's them saying, this is how we're going to get things done. Or that's my take on it. So let's
Well, as someone, and Alice Rowley, you have been closer to that body than most will ever be, considering your relationship with Lamar Alexander. So here's what I would say. That if I told every listener to this radio show that, well, I won't say, there's some liberal Democrats that might be listening, so those excluded. If I told everybody that went out and voted for Donald Trump, hey, we're going to get you Donald Trump reelected in a landslide fashion. We're going to get the Senate back. We're going to get the House of Representatives back. We're going to get good people in places of power like, Tulsi Gabbard and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Tom Homan and, go down the list. But, oh, by the way, John Thune's going to be Senate Majority Leader. Is that okay with everybody? I think everybody would say yes. I mean, I understand that it's not the selection for some, but like you say, I'm not in the United States Senate, but I still maintain that I think Thune and some of the others, dare I say, they're a little bit squishy on Trump over the years. I think they clearly understand what happened last Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, if the goal is to confirm the cabinet as quickly as possible, and somebody who understands how the other side could stop confirmations is now running the process, then maybe there's a silver lining there, right?
I take it as a silver lining, Alice. Come see me sometime.
Okay.
I would love to have you on for a full hour. I love your insight into all of these things, and thank you so much for calling.
I love listening to your show, Matt, and whenever you send out the bat symbol, like I need people to call in, I did it today.
Well, you're so very kind. Take care, and Alice Rowley, Nashville would be a better place if you were its mayor. I said it. Thank you. See you.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care. There's Alice Rowley, ran for mayor. I wanted to vote for her, but I didn't live in Davidson County. But I don't think we'd have to deal with additional taxes like the transit tax if Alice had been in charge. It is 2:30 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN.
$2:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. President-elect Donald Trump confirms he's nominating Florida U.S. Senator Marco Rubio to Secretary of State. Trump says Rubio's a very powerful voice for freedom who will be a strong advocate for our nation, a true friend to our allies, and a fearless warrior who will never back down to our adversaries. Trump also confirming former Congresswoman Lieutenant Colonel Tulsi Gabbard will serve as Director of National Intelligence. This comes as the GOP is projected to retain control of the House and has already taken back the U.S. Senate. Tennessee 4th District Congressman Scott DesJarlais on the WTN Matt Murphy Show says the goal to cut trillions of dollars from government spending will be painful to all.
We're really going to solve the problems that are facing America and the debt. We as conservatives are going to have to be willing to suck it up and realize that, some of it's going to touch us too. And there's a lot of fluff out there, but it's going to be a tough haul, and I hope we do it. I don't think we have a choice.
Senate Republicans voted to make Senator John Thune of South Dakota the next majority leader. President-elect Trump headed back to Florida after meeting with President Biden in the Oval Office this morning. That's where John Santucci says both Biden and Trump were cordial to one another.
There's got to be this little human moment of, I'm back, right? I mean, and listen, Joe Biden said it too. Welcome back. It was his office 4 years ago, and it will be his office until January 2029.
A CIA official with top security clearance has been arrested and charged for allegedly leaking classified material about Israel's attack plans on Iran last month. He's identified as Asif W. Rahman, who works overseas for the CIA, was indicted last week on federal charges, arrested on Tuesday in Cambodia, then yesterday taken to a federal courthouse in Guam, where he was arraigned on 2 counts of willful retention and transmission of national defense information. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. November is a month of Thanksgiving, and we give thanks to all of our many sponsors on the Matt Murphy Show and on Supertalk 99.7 WTN, to include our good friends over at the Glock Store. Glock Store, they could have chosen anywhere when they made the decision, when Lenny McGill made the decision to move out of San Diego, because California was just not a very business-friendly place. And can you imagine running a gun store in California? It was brutal. But Lenny needed to move, and he could have chosen anywhere, and he chose Nashville for a good reason. And Nashville has benefited, and the Glock Store has benefited. But did you know that in
in addition to being a wonderful location where you can go in, you can browse around, you can go to the Shoot 270 rooms, Neverlane's rooms. You can do all of those things. Glock Store is a nationwide online retailer at glockstore.com. But they have a beautiful retail showroom, the incredible, totally unique Shoot 270 rooms. And it's just a business that employs nearly 100 Nashvillians, and we're so thankful for that, and I'm thankful that they're here. And I want you to make them a part of your Second Amendment rights. The next time you need a gun, the next time you need ammunition, or the next time you need gear or training, let's go to the Glock Store together. Glockstore.com or shoot270.com. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you. The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief is located in Franklin, but within the sound of my voice, they are here for you. Are you in pain right now? You know, I was, and I'm not just a spokesperson for the Dr. Gill Center. I'm a client of Dr. Gill's because when I first got here, I was in debilitating lower back pain. I also had an issue with my upper neck. Well, I met with Dr. Gill, met him, saw Dr. Wendy. She gave me my initial diagnosis, full x-rays, full panel for less than $50. That's what it is, folks, $49. You can get a full examination plus your first treatment at the Dr. Gill Center. If you feel like no one's listening to you about your pain or you just don't know what to do with it, if you take pills on a daily basis, if you're considering surgery, do me a favor and call Dr. Gill and his team of incredible chiropractic care physicians today. 615-882-4838, 615-882-4838, or visit their website, callmepainfree.com. That's kind of all one word, callmepainfree.com, and work with the Dr. Gill team to make your life a pain-free one. Make that a reality with the Dr. Gill Center.
More breaking news from President-elect Donald Trump. He posts to Truth Social, "It is my great honor to announce that Congressman Matt Gaetz of Florida is hereby nominated to be the Attorney General of the United States." It goes on to say Matt is a deeply gifted and tenacious attorney, trained at the William and Mary College of Law.
There's a lot to like about this selection, most of which is how the liberals are going to freak out about it. I mean, if you think that they freaked out about Pete Hegseth, Pete Hegseth, a two-time Bronze Star winner, Pete Hegseth, who did multiple tours of duty overseas, Pete Hegseth, who has a command and understanding of the Pentagon and national defense matters unmatched. It's an absolute. And all they wanted to call him was some weekend Fox News host, which is just such an insult to military service. If you think that was a freak out, wait till they get a hold of this Matt Gaetz selection.
I'm telling you, that dude is a bulldog.
He is tenacious. He is rabid, and he will be excellent.
Yeah.
And McCarthy got on his bad side, and it didn't work out too well for him.
It didn't go so well for him. So as Ken just mentioned, Donald Trump announcing Representative Matt Gaetz. This was the big one, right? Secretary of State was a pretty big one.
Yeah.
But the Marco Rubio name was kind of floated out there before today, but it's become official now. Marco Rubio will be the selection by Donald Trump for Secretary of State. There's some concern amongst Republicans that he is a more war hawky type guy than they would like. But I think he's going to do he's going to act in accordance to the wishes of the President of the United States as Secretary of State. Matt Gaetz, man, oh man.
Here's what Trump says.
Yeah.
Says Matt will end a weaponized government, protect our borders, dismantle criminal organizations, and restore America's badly shattered faith and confidence in the Justice Department.
I was just talking about Jeff Sessions, and I will fiercely defend the character of Jeff Sessions. But I will also tell you that Jeff Sessions was not ready for what came to him when he was named Attorney General. He was a United States Senator from Alabama. He was the first U.S. Senator to endorse Donald Trump in 2015. He did it at Lad Peoples Stadium in Mobile because I was there. And donned the Make America Great Again hat. But when he got to D.C., he just was not ready for everything that was dumped at him and came at him, the viciousness of the swamp. If you don't think Donald Trump hasn't learned from that, then you're not paying attention with some of these picks. And Matt Gaetz as AG pick is just incredible. It's going to blow liberals' minds, and he's not going to play those games regarding weaponization of the DOJ because he's been the recipient of some of that weaponization. He had flimsy, non-existent charges thrown his way. People tried to destroy Matt Gaetz through the Department of Justice. And so he understands being on the other side of that, and he's not going to weaponize the DOJ, I don't believe. And he is ready, willing, and able to take on anyone and everyone that gets in the Trump agenda's way. And he understands, and this is something that liberals have kind of, they've taken over the narrative on some of this. The Attorney General serves at the pleasure of the President of the United States of America. Now, he also serves at the pleasure of the Constitution of the United States of America. And obviously, when the Constitution and the President when they disagree on certain things or when there are questions as to whether they disagree, then the courts have to figure out where we fall on those matters. But the AG is a part of the executive branch of government. The Department of Justice is a part of the executive branch of government. They don't act independent to the president like liberals want to believe. And you're going to hear a lot of this over the next 24 hours. A lot of liberal talking heads who just got their butts handed to them. A lot of these liberal this attorney general is going to act in fealty to the president. He's going to, the attorney general has to be independent. No, he doesn't. That's not the way this works. He works for the president of the United States and for the people of the United States and for the Constitution of the United States. And all of those things are not mutually exclusive. They can be in lockstep with one another. Randy's in Brentwood with some thoughts. Hey, Randy, how are you?
How are you doing, Matt?
I'm great. Great.
Hey, I share your joy and your enthusiasm, and the only concern that I have is our margins are so razor thin that when we start cherry picking out of the House and the Senate, that, we still have rhinos that need to be flushed out, and I'm just concerned that, there might be some other people, like I would have probably picked Mark Levin as my attorney general. I like Matt Gaetz a whole lot, but I just hate losing, seats in the House specifically because I don't even think they've called all of those races yet. It was at 216 this morning. So I'm just concerned about that. That's my only concern going forward. It's more of a long game looking at how can we get this, Trump's agenda passed, and we need those majorities without rhinos screwing up the vote.
Well, I mean, I would certainly agree that everything that all the joy that we feel right now is predicated on the idea that we're going to see good, solid conservative people replace those that are leaving the House or leaving the Senate to take on these roles in the executive branch. I mean, there's no question about that. And you just cross your fingers and hope that the people in these individual districts are going to make good decisions. But you feel like they would, right? I mean, any congressional district that selects Elise Stefanik, I feel like they're going to select another conservative. Any district that selects Matt Gaetz, I feel like they're going to pick another conservative as his replacement. At least that's the way you feel,
I sure hope so. We'll keep our fingers crossed, man. Thank you.
I do too. Well, thank you for the call, Randy. That's good. I love it. Love those types of conversations.
Since Gaetz and Rubio are both being tapped for the administration, it comes down to DeSantis to appoint replacements, right?
Yeah, so it's state to state, and I got asked this question yesterday and didn't answer it. So in terms of how the replacements happen, yes, the answer to your question is the immediate replacement, I think, in Florida is made by Ron DeSantis. He would select the senator and would
obviously
select
he's
going to
select conservatives.
Oh, yeah, there's no question. I mean, DeSantis is going to work lockstep with the Trump administration. I think they've mended their whatever issues that they've had. I don't know what Florida law specifically says about how quickly they have to have a special election. Different states do it differently, and it is up to state law as to when the government appoints or when the governor or the head of state appoints and at what point. Some states are 90 days out. Some states are 60 days out. Some states say the next election cycle after the appointment.
Is Stefanik from a state with a Republican governor?
New York, right?
Oh, she's from New York?
Yeah, but they require they have a 90-day. I did look that up. I think they have a 90-day requirement that you have to have a special election within 90 days of the seat being vacated.
So there's no governmental appointment there. So is she, and she's in obviously I would assume a pretty red district.
Yeah, it's a conservative district. So there will be a conservative or at least a Republican replacing her. But yeah, I think I've got that exactly right. 90 days after the vacancy, it remains vacant until the special election. So there's no gubernatorial appointment. Those are good questions, Bell. Jim is in the borough. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Matt. Enjoy your show.
Thank you.
A couple of questions. The position that General Flynn had, was that overseeing the Justice Department? And my second question is, any thoughts or ideas or rumors on him coming back?
I have not heard anything about General Michael Flynn with regard to coming back into the administration. He was the national security advisor to the President of the United States of America. Mike Waltz, who is a soon-to-be former Republican representative and a Green Beret, is taking on that role this time around. So he was Mike Flynn was national security advisor to the president, which that's more of a foreign policy matter or dealing with foreign policy matters. I've not heard whether or not the president has any indication that he wants to have Mike Flynn as a part of his administration. I would love to see it. I think Mike Flynn's a great American, and he was a patriot that got railroaded by the Democrats. Randy is next in Nash. Hey, Randy.
Hey, how are you doing, Matt?
I'm well. Thank you for calling.
Great. I want to kind of piggyback off one of the previous callers. We kind of got the perfect storm brewing here where we've got the president, we've got the House, potentially the Senate. And I know we've been in this situation before where we've seen all three of those things converge and administrations have fallen flat on their face and not done anything with it. And I'm just curious from your perspective how Trump and these leaders of these representative houses are going to make sure that they're successful. Like what has to happen to keep this, the dissension among the ranks from preventing what Trump wants to do from passing?
Well, I mean, you're going to have, the House, you have two separate issues, House and Senate, right? So in the House of Representatives, the margins are so tight with the Republicans that the fear is if that one or two or three Republicans veer off the reservation on some of the legislation that you cannot get it through. I think you'll have to deal with that on a bill-by-bill basis. In other words, I don't think there's anything structurally that will impede the House from getting the agenda to the floor for a vote. and then we'll have to deal with those votes based on what bills they are. And, and if certain we don't have to depend on any Democrats to vote for any of these bills. Republicans, if they remain in lockstep, they'll get them through. The Senate, it's more of a structural issue. It's not a matter of losing votes so much as it's a matter of the Democrats using the filibuster against Republicans and preventing legislation or nominees from getting passed. And that's the issue that many people have with John Thune as Senate Majority Leader. Is he going to lean on tradition and how we've always done things, or is he going to change his tactics and play a hard line with Democrats and say, look, the filibuster exists for a reason, and if you want to execute the filibuster, you've got to do it the way that they've done it for 180 years prior to the 1970s, when they really stopped filibustering on the floor of the Senate and when they really stopped demanding that members be present in order to block legislation from moving through. Does that make sense to you?
It does, yeah. I appreciate the explanation.
Yeah, no, it's no problem. So in the House, you might lose a member or two on a particular bill. And so you've got to herd those cats. Herd those cats as best you can and make sure you don't, squeeze the tube and have toothpaste coming out this way or that way. In the Senate, it's more of a structural deal where how hard are you going to play against the Democrats? Because I think with 53 Republican senators, the likelihood is that you're going to get enough votes. And you know what? There might be a few bills that are a step too far for certain Republicans, and we're going to allow those constituents to deal with that in those individual states. I got to get to a break, and in a moment we'll talk with Brian Wilson and get his thoughts on the latest. Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, Matt Gaetz as Attorney General. Wow. Some big names on the table. It's 51 after the hour on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Absorbing the latest information on some of the selections being made by Donald Trump. Big day for Donald Trump and the transition team. He starts it with a visit to congressional Republicans, goes over to the White House, and now this selection as Matt Gaetz is his pick for Attorney General. Let's get the thoughts of Brian Wilson as we absorb all of these things. Brian, man.
It's been a remarkable 24 hours. I mean, it was during my show yesterday that I learned someone who is tentatively scheduled to be on the show today. I haven't heard that he's not going to be there. I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't, but we don't know. Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense, and then some of these announcements. I like Rubio at State. Tulsi Gabbard, interesting choice as the Director of National Intelligence, very important position. But I mean, it's the Matt Gaetz for Attorney General. That is a nomination designed to poke the bear in Washington.
No question.
And I look at it, even though I think that the Republican-controlled Senate is very anxious to support Donald Trump in getting his cabinet approved. That one may not go through.
Let me float a theory for you, Brian. You've been around the block a lot
in
D.C.
I know where you're going. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Democrats are going to want a pelt. They're going to want a quote-unquote victory. And if you throw Gaetz out there knowing that Gaetz won't get through, it may give you an opportunity to get everybody else you want through. You give them their little victory, and you get another Attorney General through. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that he could choose who would go through.
Maybe.
Would still be a very solid choice for Attorney General. That may be, as they say, chum in the water.
A little bit of a head fake, yeah.
And so I would not say that I think you're wrong. I think either he really wants the guy or he's playing a game here, but one way or the other, the nomination that is most likely to garner a great deal of attention is Matt Gaetz.
Well, we can't wait for Brian Wilson in the drive. He's coming up with 4 hours of radio excellence right after Ken Weaver's newscast, which is radio excellence in and of itself. And Ken Weaver is up right now. That does it for us. The drive next. I'll be listening. Hope you are as well. We'll talk to you tomorrow at high noon, folks. Until then, hug your loved ones. So long, everybody.